So we have, at home we have this Vedic text called the Srimad Bhagavatam. I sometimes read from them here. And, this is what I read while I have breakfast and lunch. So there's a number of volumes. There's actually 10 cantos. I think I've mentioned this before, and most of them have 3 books each. And the books are like this. But they do have the Sanskrit verse. These were spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to a king who was about to die from a snake bite. And he approached the great sage and said, you know, what should I be hearing? What should I be doing in these last days of my life to help me remember God? And so Sukadeva Goswami spoke in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam over 7 days and 7 nights. Under the circumstances, nobody slept. The king's about to leave this world, and that was an incredible kind of situation. And there's in the purport here, Srila Bhaktivedanta describes it is said, without love for God, one is sure to continue wandering in birth and death, not knowing what will happen in one's next life. And so I thought it was, like today, I thought about the situation with, whoops, there we go, sorry. People have this idea of, you know, this is who I am, this body's me. Sorry, it's got 2 settings. This body is who I am. And when we leave this body at death, we're still kind of going to be the same person, right? Same kind of personality, same kind of everything. Yeah, it's like, you know, so people are feeling like someone that they know or love, you know, maybe a relative has already left, and they feel like that person still looks the same, and they're living in another dimension, but they're watching over them. They're same form, even though that form has been, you know, either burnt or buried. And so we just kind of, we can't kind of get past this idea that I'm the body and other people are their bodies. And so we get stuck with this concept. And when a person, even more so with it, like a famous person, so for example, the Queen, she played a role for a really long time, a role of service, and when people think of her dying, they're still thinking of her in that same kind of form, right? There's a Queen Mother, and she'll be probably watching over the ceremony that happened last night or something, right? And not realizing that that person, that soul, has moved on. They've gone somewhere else. They don't remember. It's highly unlikely. It's really rare, really, really, really rare to remember your past life. So that person has moved on. They may have taken on another body in a human form, another body in a different species, or they may have gone back to the spiritual world. If their relationship with God was such that they were more attached to God than this world, then that person, that soul, goes to the spiritual world. And so, without knowledge of who we are, we end up with all sorts of false concepts, false understandings, and it doesn't help free us in any way, shape or form from the different kinds of anxieties and fears and troubles that we go through in this lifetime. So the person who played the role of the Queen Mother, if she came back into this material world again, and say she had a human form, she wouldn't remember that whole role that she's played. The opulence, the majesty, the, like, I mean, live in a palace. Or not just one palace, there's a few, right? I mean, to me, I go, God, they must be really cold. But maybe they had central heating. I don't know how you heat a place that big, right? But that person wouldn't remember anything, just like we don't remember anything from our past life, right? Whatever we went through in our past life and thought was so important, we don't remember that. We don't remember what species we're in. We don't remember anything about it. And then we have this body on, and we take this as being a really big deal. And when this one's finished, if we've still got material attachments and conditioning, we're going to take another body, and we won't remember anything of this body, right? So it's a really kind of bizarre situation for the saints and the sages to be viewing us and just feeling so sorry for us and just trying to help us to understand this body's temporary. You are an eternal spiritual being. You're an eternal, amazing, beautiful, happy by nature spiritual being. But you have this body on and these conditions, and it's so important that we don't identify with them. We don't identify with this body. We don't identify with the different relatives of this body, you know, the different relationships. You know, we're going to have relationships, guaranteed, you know, some good, some not so great, you know, but if we can see each other as a spiritual being, that we're just journeying our way through life, this particular lifetime, we're just on a journey, and we're going through whatever our destiny is, whatever our karma is. We're going to go through that. And so whoever we meet, whoever we come in contact with, whatever family we end up in, you know, it's all by our destiny, and treat everybody with kindness and love and respect, knowing we don't know who these people are, right? You don't know who the person really is, right? We're just seeing a certain view, a certain concept, right? We don't really see the person. So there's a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam about a person who was a king many eons ago, eons and eons ago. And he was a very exalted king. So like the system is still there in the UK, in the royal family, the concept is still there, that the people who are the kings or queens in a particular country, they're supposed to be there helping guide the people in their material and their spiritual well-being. And they're meant to be a representative of God, that they're going to see with a big picture of eternity, and they're going to take care of the subjects, right? All of us, right? Presumably that's what, you know, any ruler is supposed to do, is actually care about us, right? Not about themselves and lining their own pockets or getting prestige or honour or whatever it might be, right? It's meant to be a job of service where people actually take that role, take that opportunity to try and see how much good they can do, how much they can help people, right? How much they can help the environment and make it conducive for people's spiritual growth, so that we're not disturbed by wars and, you know, crazy stuff that the world's going through, but actually try and make it so that there's more harmony and peace between people, so that then we can pursue our spiritual journey without the extra anxieties, right? If you're really, really hungry, and there's just like little food, or, you know, there's no toilet paper, or, you know, whatever it might be, you know, whatever crazy situation it might be, you know, it's harder for people to sit and meditate. We need to do it when we're in stressful situations. We really need to, but it can be harder when there's a lot of agitation. If you're just trying to survive, you know, and you're just trying to find some food or, you know, housing or whatever it is, then it can be hard to set aside time and actually really meditate. on your relationship with God. Right? It can be conducive to doing that because you've got nothing else happening, right? It can be really helpful also, right? That, you know, we're not sort of lulled into thinking everything's just fine. So it can go two ways, and that's going to depend on each person. So Bharat Maharaj was a saintly king and trying to help people. And the Vedic system is at a certain point in time, about 50 years old or 55, a person will leave their job and go to the forest and use that latter part of their life to try and develop their relationship with God or make it stronger or begin if you hadn't already begun. That was the idea, that you kind of leave your worldly responsibilities behind and you try and spend that time preparing for your journey, where you're going to go next. And so I'll try and abbreviate it because it's really long, but it's important in this connection. So he was already an exalted spiritual personality with great spiritual knowledge, and he would sit and made a thatched hut and sit and meditate. And he was sitting meditating by the bank of a river, and a lion roared nearby. There was a deer, a pregnant deer, and she got so freaked out with the roar of the lion that she jumped into the river trying to get across. And she drowned and gave birth at the same time as she jumped into the river out of fear. So then they say that, you know, when anyone's pregnant, you don't give them any shock, right? Because that's what can happen. And so Bharat Maharaj means king, he dove in and he saved the little deer. And he somehow managed to raise the deer. And so he became really attached to the deer. He managed to leave all his palatial grounds behind and his big role of being king and his, you know, the relatives and the prestige and the honor and, you know what I mean, the opulence of it all. He'd left it all behind and went to a forest to meditate, right? But it's kind of lonely in a forest, and there's this soft little deer, little baby deer with its big doe eyes, and, you know. And he was really, he was so cautious and trying to protect the deer, but he became really attached to the deer. And when he was about to leave this world, instead of meditating upon his relationship with God, he was looking into the eyes of his dear friend, right? And he took the body, his next birth, he took the body of a deer, because that was his meditation at the end of his life, looking into the body of the deer. But because he was spiritually advanced, apart from his sort of little sidetrack there, or rather large sidetrack, he remembered his past life. And so there he is, stuck in the body of a deer, and knowing I'm not a deer, and not being able to relate like a deer. So he didn't hang around with the other deer, he hung around the temples where he could hear the chanting, and he just had to bide his time. Can you imagine you go from a human form into a body where you're eating grass with your mouth and having to do everything like a deer, right? That's intense. If you remember who you were and now you've got a body of an animal on, that's intense. But he didn't take it like that. He took it like, you know, shit, I was careless, right? And I'm just going to try and wait my time out. And so eventually he left his body in that deer body and he took on a human form. And he still remembered what had happened, and he was called Jada Bharat. And he made a massive effort it's like, this time I'm not going to blow it. And so he made sure that he acted like he was deaf and dumb so that nobody would relate to him. He didn't want to get attached to anybody or anything. You know, his father tried to teach him how to be clean and, you know, bathe after you've been in the toilet and then bathe before, and, you know, he would just like whatever anybody tried to do or help him, you know, he didn't follow it. And later on, a cutting the story really short, later on, like he was really strong. As he grew up, he became really strong because his brothers just gave him the hard work to do, and he just did it, right? So a king was going by, and one of the palanquin riders, carriers, right? They needed a new guy, and they saw Jadabra out in the fields, and so they thought, well, here's a big strong guy, we'll get him. And so there's 4 people carrying the king, and Jadabrat would see ants on the path, and he would try and step over them, and, you know, so the the king was kind of being like jerked and dropped and, you know, stuff like that, and he got really pissed off that this was happening, and as he stopped the procession, and it was like, what's happening, you know, and he goes, the new guy, right, it's not us, you know. And so he's like, don't do this, right? So they carry on, and then, you know, he carried on trying to step over ants and stuff that were on the path. And so, you know, the king stopped it, he got down, and he just started abusing Jadabharat, and in really harsh terms, not knowing who this person is, right? Just seeing the superficial thing. And we all end up getting caught up in this kind of stuff in our daily life. So he just saw the superficial, you know, this rough, tough, kind of big, strong person, you know, didn't speak, you know, whatever. Obviously really dumb, because he didn't know how to carry this and, you know, step on ants to make sure the king's okay. And so he, Jadabharat spoke for the first time, and he enlightened the king and refuted everything that the king had said. And so that's how we know about the story of his life. So why I'm telling you this is we should be careful. We should be really careful. He was an exalted spiritual personality. He'd already grown spiritually, really amazingly, right? Exalted spiritual personality. But a slip and down, right? So we don't want to be looking into, you know, we need to grow spiritually ourselves, and we don't want to be looking into the eyes of our dearest cat or dog or budgie or goldfish, right? Whatever it might be, right? We want to try and make it so that our life now and our life later is focused on working as a team with whoever you're having relationships with, working as partners, but to try and help each other grow spiritually and closer to God, so that our attachment is not here on this world, that our attachment to God becomes really strong. You know, God is the most attractive, unbelievably sweet and playful and awesome personality. Right? We should want to have a relationship with Him. And the process of meditation is a major way that our hearts and minds can become purified, so that that relationship that's already there inside each and every one of us, it's already there. We already have a special individual relationship with the Supreme Person, Sri Krishna. It's a matter of uncovering it. And chanting purifies our heart and mind. Chanting the names of God, singing the names of God, purifies our heart and our mind and gives us a taste of the spiritual happiness that's already there. And it starts to clear away all these layers of conditioning, making us think, I'm a Kiwi, I'm a woman, you know, I'm old. Before I thought I was a Kiwi and I was young. Do you know what I mean? Just whatever the body is, we think it's us. So the chanting helps to purify that away, so that our real relationship with God can be revealed to us. Thank you.